I'm Khyra Steiner, and you're listening to Elaborate with K. Elaborate with K.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Elaborate with K. So for today's episode, I thought that we could talk about communication and the gap that exists in communication, specifically digital. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so I'm titling this episode, This Could Have Been an Email, and it's essentially a how-to work on making your communication styles better and kind of having effective communication in your work, school, organizations, whatever it is. Just kind of my couple tips and tricks to improve your communication skills. Okay. So the first one that I have is to respond ASAP as soon as possible, as soon as you can. I think that it is really easy to kind of just look at an email or notification and be like, oh, okay, I'll respond to this later. Like, this is too much for me to deal with right now. This is not something that I want to deal with right now. This isn't something that I really want to look at right now. I'll just deal with it later. And I think that that is truly it. I understand. Trust me, especially if it's for a big project or a big assignment, something big that you have coming up, something that you know is going to take a lot of energy, planning, all of that. Like, yes, okay, for those, make sure that you set aside time. If you have a designated time that you're going to sit down, respond to the email, do the task, all of that, great. But if it's just a quick little email that, or a text or message, whatever it is that's going to take you literally a minute or less to respond, do it as soon as you can. Do it as soon as possible, because the minute that you say, I'll do it later, you're not going to do it later. You're going to forget. And then that just causes a whole bunch of issues for you and everybody involved. So do it as soon as you can. And if as soon as you can is not in that exact moment, I think my next tip is going to be utilize the unread feature. They have it on text messages. They have it in emails. It is my favorite thing ever. Mark as unread. Even if you read it and you're like, I need to come back to that. I need to reread that. I need to look at this again, reference it again. Mark it as unread. Pin it to the top of your conversations. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that it is somewhere where you can find it, somewhere you can find it easily, and where you will make sure that you go back and look at it. Okay. Second tip is to check your grammar. If you're sending an email, you're sending a message, just read over it once, twice, pretend it's a school assignment, pretend it's paper, pretend it's the paper that's going to get you into your dream school, or the cover letter that's going to get you your dream job. Are you not going to look over it again? Just reread it just once. And something that my teachers always told me throughout school and growing up, and I think it was like kind of annoying to hear, and it wasn't always my favorite thing to hear, but they would always say, read it aloud. Read it out loud. And when you're writing like a 12-page paper for school, you're like, I really don't want to read this 12-page paper about whatever historical event that I don't care that much about. I don't really want to read this out loud. Like, why do I need to do that? But truly, it helps, because that's when you really understand, like, this sentence doesn't make sense. There needs to be a comma there. There should be a period. This is a run-on sentence. That's how you figure it out. So check your grammar. Make sure that everything's spelled correctly. Reread it out loud. Make sure there's no typos, especially if it's an important email. But just do it in general. I think that, just get into a good practice, good habit of it. With today's day and age and society and the internet in general, there are so many different ways to connect with people, and everybody knows everybody. Everybody in the world knows everybody in the world. So if you constantly email or talk to this one person with terrible grammar or bad manners and unprofessional, that's going to get back to them. And then if they know somebody who's in charge of like your dream job, your dream position, something that you really want to be a part of, but they hear how unprofessional you are, or they see it, or they come across it, or an email comes to them that's unprofessional, lots of typos, misspellings, everything, they're not really gonna want you for, if it's a job for that position, just, it takes 1 minute to just like reread your message, make sure that it sounds good. So please just do it. And then going off of that, making sure that you are also being polite and professional. Now, this isn't necessarily if you're like sending a text to your best friend, do whatever you're gonna do, okay? But it's specifically if you're sending an email, I think email in general is a way more professional outlet and way of digital communication, especially if you're emailing a boss, someone superior, a manager, supervisor, professor, advisor, potential job, whatever it is. Make sure that your emails are polite and professional, because as I said, everybody knows everybody and word gets around, and you just want to make sure that people have a positive outlook on you, because even if your email has no typos but you were really rude, that's going to get back to somebody, and then you're like, oh, I don't really want to work with her for this project, or I don't really want to bring her onto this team because I heard that she's unprofessional, or whatever it is. So just make sure that you're being polite and professional. It does not have to be your actual real internal feelings, but in your email, make sure that you're coming across as polite and professional. The next thing I have is to read and reread. Read the email that you're being sent, or the message, task, assignment that it is, whatever. Read it through once, take note, and then before you go and try to do the tasks or do the assignments that it's assigning you, or do what they're telling you to do, read it again. I think that it's really easy to miss something, especially if you're working in a rush, or you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you have a lot on your plate. It can be really easy to miss some key important things. So really just taking the time to reread whatever you're looking at, whatever you need to respond to, and then also reading and rereading your own message back is going to be really good for just overall having great communication and professional, making sure that you're not missing anything. Or if you are confused about something, you have question, something is unclear, then you have the chance to go back through and respond and ask follow-up questions. And on top of that, I didn't have this one noted, but I think following up is always great. If you have additional questions or something that you're waiting for, if you're still waiting for a response from people, follow up the same way that, if you mark something as, if you didn't mark it as unread, or you check an email and you say, I'm going to respond to that later, you forget. People forget. So following up, obviously don't do it like 20 minutes after you sent the initial email. Don't do that. But, you can follow up to make sure that you get back to the top of their inbox. And I know that sometimes professors or bosses will tell you like, hey, can you like message me again? Can you just remind me just so that it's at the top of my inbox? And I get it. Like, people are busy. We all have plenty of stuff going on. So following up is not a bad thing, but just, make sure that you are, again, polite and professional about it. And following up does come with a level of patience, because you can't follow up with someone 20 minutes later. Okay. The next thing that I have is truly just being organized with all of the things that you need to do. And this also ties into time management, once again, my favorite thing to talk about. But time management and being organized. So, I have a Google Calendar that I have, so that any events, track meets and stuff, I just have my schedule so I know what's going on a certain day. If someone's like, oh, I want to schedule a meeting on this day, and you're like, okay, well, this is what I have going on that day. I'm free at this block of time, so using a calendar, we have them on our phones, on your computer. You can buy them at the dollar store. Like, truly just like having a calendar and like actually writing out your plans and any events and stuff that you have coming up is truly so helpful, because you will forget. I also find it really, really helpful to have checklists and planners. I have a digital planner on my iPad that I make, and within that, I make specific pages of checklists for, tasks that I need to get done throughout the week, and then a different checklist for my homework. If I have any work tasks, that's a separate checklist. You can put them all together. You can separate them. I like having them separated by category, just so that everything is more streamlined in my brain, because that's how it works. But I think truly just like being organized and having a set spot for everything, and assigning times and tasks, and just having everything truly writing everything down, or having it written out, having it physically or digitally, I guess, but having it somewhere all collective in one spot is truly the most helpful thing in just planning your life, organizing, planning an event, making plans, communicating with people. It's a reminder. You can even set a reminder to, make sure that you respond to this email, or get back to them, or follow up if they haven't responded by then. So truly just like having a physical note of the time frame of everything is always super, super helpful. And my last note is to delegate. I think if you're working on a team specifically, that's what this is. If you're working on a team or with a group on a project for work, an organization, whatever it is, delegate. I know that I have a hard time with that sometimes. I'm still working on it, just because I feel like, not that I like being in control, but I feel like I just like getting stuff done immediately when I'm thinking about it. You know, if I'm like, oh, let me email this person to see if we can set up a date for this. Right in my mind, let me just do that right now. And so, but it can also get really overwhelming when you're trying to do everything all by yourself at once. And then that's when you get too many emails and you're like, I can't respond to this right now. I can't deal with it. So delegating when you can, you know, asking for help. Help is okay. Help is good. Help is great. So asking your team members and anybody that you're working with if they can help you with this, delegating certain tasks, breaking it up if you're working in a team or you're working in a group, giving everybody specific roles so that, you know, you have things to work on. All of that is just truly going to be so helpful. But yeah, those are my few little tips and tricks for having better communication. And especially now in the digital age, just making sure that you're being polite, professional, checking your grammar, responding as soon as you can, delegating, rereading, and being organized. But yeah, thank you so much for listening and watching to this episode of Elaborate with K, and I'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye. And yeah, talk to you next Sunday.